Welcome to the Feeling Lighter podcast, everyone. I am Coach Tyler, here with Dr. Lisa, trying to hold back her giggles, right?
Yes. Hello. How
So,
are you?
is it just me that I look at you and you're just like, I have a goofy face or something, and you're
No,
like, oh my God.
I was having this goofy smile before you looked over here, so
Okay.
I'm just in a
Yeah.
mood, but it's fine.
There I am, over personalizing again.
Don't take anything personal. How many times did we read the four
Oh,
agreements?
Jesus. Yeah, well, not enough. Not enough. Still need to learn that lesson. Well, I'm excited. And speaking of lessons today, we were going to take today's episode between just you and I to kind of share some of the experiences that we have with clients, because I think that embedded in a lot of these stories is a lot of great lessons that people can take home to hopefully just build a better connection with themselves, feel better in their bodies, and feel better about their bodies, and
Yeah.
hopefully just feel better in their lives, right? Because I don't know about you, but I'm not doing any one-on-one training, haven't done it for a long time, but we get a direct connection with our WeShape members through our live coaching calls, through our live calls that we do when we host our challenges, and I am like moved to tears sometimes
Yep,
when I'm
same.
connecting with these people
Yeah.
because of the experiences that they had, right? And moved to tears in both directions. So I wanted to start out with one that was like teeing up what we really don't like about the fitness industry. And this came fairly recently. We were on our first challenge call, and we were talking about movement. And we were telling people that what we really want them to focus on is to ditch the word exercise. We all hate that word. It's got a negative association with it. It's all about energy expenditure and changing the way you look, right?
Right.
And start embracing the word movement. And instead of exercising, go practice movement. And this person decided to raise their hand and spoke. They were brand new to WeShape at the time. And she said, I just got off doing another challenge. And this challenge asked me to put my credit card in and commit to an amount of weight lost. And if I lost the weight, I wasn't charged. But if I didn't, then I got charged.
That is like
And of
taking
course,
your money.
of course, it was a unrealistic goal in the first place. And
Yeah.
all of it was rooted in shame and self-judgment and using that to drive you to take action, right? And I was so grateful to hear her say, and when I came here, I realized like, no, I don't have to do any of that. Like all of that is this old system, this old way of viewing fitness and why we do this in the first place.
Yeah.
And she's like, for the first time, I'm like, nobody's ever told me that. Nobody has ever said I can show up for my movement practice or my workouts as an act of self-care. I can do it to care for my body. I don't have to focus on the scale. I don't have to focus on how hard it is. I just show up and say, can I learn to take care of myself better? And can I show up from a different place, that place of self-worth and intrinsic value? And that was this moment where I personally was like, oh, thank God we're doing it.
Yeah.
We're really nailing it. And also at the same time, oh my God, the industry is not going to stop this crap, right? They're not going to stop taking people's credit cards and getting them to commit to weight loss to shame them into signing up for their programs, right? And that's why I think, we all need to make a difference in our own lives and share that with others,
Yeah.
because it is a route to misery every time. And
Every single
nobody
time.
who's gone down that pathway is like, I love myself. This is great, right? They're always critical of themselves. They always hate on their bodies, and it doesn't have to be that way.
No, it shouldn't be that way. And shame on that company. Like, what?
I know she didn't say the company name, but I was like, damn, we probably know who these people are.
We
right?
probably do.
It's so
Like,
sad.
yeah, it's very it takes this beautiful idea around taking better care of yourself, maybe doing something that's
Yeah.
good for you, maybe being more active, maybe being more mindful of how what you nourish yourself with. It just perverts it. And now it becomes this, you're bad, you suck, you can't achieve your goals, and we're taking your money. I mean, it's literally taking your money for not losing weight. And that's what diets do anyway, literally.
Yeah.
Take our money for not losing or keeping off weight. That's just what happens as a result. So yeah, along that same line of thinking, I do still see clients one-on-one. I do, body image coaching. I have physical therapy patients. I see people virtually and in person, and I love it. And there's always been a part of me that's like, am I ever going to let go of this clinical practice and just focus on other stuff? But I love the impact of like communicating with singular people and helping them make a difference in how they see themselves and how they live their lives and you know how they treat themselves. But then WeShape has kind of been this add-on for me on top of it, you know, being able to coach people and talk them through some of the things when they come to the cause. And it is so cool to see the transformation in a client on our cause. You know, like I said, the first couple times they
show up on day one, right?
Oh, it's so cute. They're just like, and they're just, sometimes they don't talk a lot, or they'll just ask a question, be like, it's my first time, and it's so sweet to just kind of see the transformation over time and how they oftentimes go from like nervous, scared, expecting the same thing they see all over the, you know, the traditional fitness world, and then coming, it's almost, you can see that something in their eyes, like, this is different. Like, it's a whole different way of thinking. And when I tell you, you know, sometimes our calls, when we do these weekly calls with the clients, the members, sometimes our calls, they're not even a bunch of questions. It's just a bunch of like, I am so grateful for y'all. I am so grateful for this. I am so excited that now I feel this way or that way. Like, it's just a beautiful thing to watch. And I think of one member in particular, you know, who came in with kind of the same idea, like, I just want to get healthier, want to take better care of myself, which is great. Want to maybe lose some weight, you know, perhaps. And then 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 months later, no conversation at all about weight. No conversation at all about how much I weigh, what size clothes I wear. Literally all they talk about is, I feel so much better in my body. I was able to sit in this chair that's normally uncomfortable for me, but I was able to sit back and I had really good posture and I didn't have any pain, and I did these stretches for a week and now I don't have shoulder pain. And it's just beautiful to watch because you see the needle move, you know, in this work that we're doing in an industry that obviously totally outweighs like this small portion of us that believe in taking good care of yourself out of self-love versus, you know, hating yourself. But you can see the needle move one client by one client. That's now like, oh, that's not even what I'm supposed to do. Like, who care? I don't care how much I weigh. I really care that I'm able to keep up with my kid or my grandkid.
Walk up and down the stairs.
Do very basic but important functional tasks. And I've seen that over and over and over with WeShape. And that is, again, why I'm here and why I love this community so much, because the work that we get to do really makes a difference in shifting how people see health, fitness, movement, and how they treat themselves and take care of themselves.
I love that. It's like we're spreading a virus of self-love and self-care. It's one person at a time. It's growing. So, but I really appreciate you saying that, because I see the same thing. You know, like most of the people that we've got as members came in organically from seeing our social media feeds. And most of the time they're discovering us because they saw like a stretch or a move or a few moves. And then they're like, oh, like, let me give this a shot.
Yeah.
And they show up expecting what they get everywhere else, and they have a lot of skepticism. And when they realize that we really care, like we want somebody to walk away feeling good in their bodies, and B, our entire brand messaging and mindset strategy is completely different. It's positive, not negative.
Yeah.
I think it's like a breath of fresh air. And and also you said something before that, which is really interesting. Since so much of what you and I do in the fitness space is focused around movement quality, right? Like, again, this is an area that's been driving me nuts lately, but it's like everybody focuses on quantity. How much can you do, right?
Yep.
That's the thing. And like, more is not better. Better is better, right? And better represents the quality of what you're doing, right? And there's just not a lot of education out there helping people understand, how is my body supposed to move?
Yeah.
When I'm tight here, what things could I try to stretch to make it better? When I feel weak here, what moves could I do to help make it feel stronger, build more awareness? How do I create better coordination in my body? Because I think people think that, you know, the ultimate goal is just like add weight to the machine or like hit the treadmill for longer. And I think they don't realize, like, if you, for example, have a misstep in your gait, right? So if you're running and you have a hip internal rotation, which makes your knee move a little bit laterally, right? And you go run and you go more, all that happens is you get injured
Yeah,
over time.
absolutely.
And then the more you did, the harder it is to unwind that pattern. And so now getting back to baseline is even harder as well. And so I so appreciate the fact that our members are giving us that feedback about, well, like, I learned how to move my body, and then my body felt better. It's like, what a novel surprise that was, right? Because people don't even realize that they walk around with like knee pain and back pain and stuff, and we're like, okay, brace your core like this, or move your leg out like this, and there's it went away right now,
Instantly, yeah.
And so this reminds me of another story, and this was one of the first people that came to work with us a long time ago, Jean, and Jean had canes, and she had to use her canes to walk around. And after doing our workouts for a while, she developed enough strength and coordination to get rid of the canes. And we had a video a long time ago of Jean like walking around with her canes, and then, after a handful of months, like literally jogging up her stairs.
Oh, wow.
And what was interesting for Jean, though, was she had these amazing results. And then she had some hard times, and then lost some other results. And then she got back on and had some amazing results and went back and forth. And I'm not saying this to say that Jean like failed and wasn't disciplined. Like, life happened. She got cancer.
Happens.
Her husband passed away, right? And throughout that experience, all we kept saying was, we love you. We're here for you. And remember to keep showing up for yourself.
Yep.
And sometimes people have the capacity to do that and really get after it. And sometimes it's hard, right? And this kind of reminds me of another lady who was one of our challenge winners a couple challenges ago, who recently said the same thing. She said, I won the challenge. And I was like on top of the world. And then she was a caretaker to, I think it was her mom or her dad. And they all of a sudden went on a rapid health decline.
Yeah.
And then she got super sick because she was working with them all the time and like stressed and everything like that. And everything fell apart. But what I was so happy to hear was, she said, I would have normally judged and criticized myself while I was there. I would have normally been like, you're not doing this for yourself, and you're not doing this for yourself. And because of the work that we've helped her do on her mind, she was able to be present with that rather crappy, dark experience and not criticize herself and just go, this is just a moment in time. It's okay if I'm not showing up and doing my workouts and doing all these things. Like, I can just be here with this experience. And when I'm ready, I can go back and it's okay.
And it's
right?
okay.
I think it's so powerful.
That. No, it is so powerful because it just speaks to the fact that we can't control everything. We cannot control everything that's going to happen to us.
Life is going to be lifing at you.
Life is never going to stop lifing until you are done living. Okay, that is just the reality. And so when you can hold a deep compassion for yourself and the respect for yourself to not criticize or judge yourself when you are doing less than what you maybe want to do for your physical health and well-being, that is okay. Because guess what? Sometimes what's going to trump your physical health and well-being is your mental health and well-being. And sometimes your mental health and well-being is going to mean I don't have time to do this separate thing for physical exercise. I have to incorporate movement into these, this new responsibility. If I'm caregiving for a human that I'm lifting and rolling and like, that is what happens. And so giving yourself the space and the freedom to be like, it's okay. I'm still a great person. There's nothing wrong with me. This is just what life is giving me right now, and I have to work through it. And hopefully I'll get back to what I was doing before or some semblance of that. And there's nothing wrong with it. And I think, especially for our demographic, we see a lot of that, a lot of changes in life that we have zero control over. So it's empowering and inspiring, for people to change their mindset. I think about the little examples, like on a call when someone's like, something's going on with my shoulder. Every time I reach up, it just hurts and I can't, do this or that. And then, they give you some more symptoms and you kind of suss it out. And you're like, okay, what about if you rotate your hand up and try reaching, and they do it on the call and they're like, oh, it doesn't hurt. It's like, you feel like a little miracle worker, but it's just an understanding, like, we can make small deviations in our movement patterns to make things more comfortable, even if it's a temporary fix for an issue that's happening that needs to resolve over time, if it's inflammatory or if we need surgery, whatever. But there are things that we can do, and I love sharing that knowledge with people so that they are more in tune with what their bodies need in the moment, and not critical about themselves for needing this shift. It's like, if you need 2 canes, use 2 canes. If you need a walker, use the walker. Don't shame yourself for needing additional assistance. Take the assistance, and maybe set a goal of not needing it one day or not. Because at the end of the day, what matters most is that you're safe and that you're taking good care of yourself and that you're being mindful. So if that means we modify, if that means we never do a full burpee again because it's just too much, we modify it forever. There's nothing wrong with that. There's no shame in that. But if you want to work toward that, that's great too. So it's so many deviations, from person to person, situation to situation, and it'll look different on everybody, right? But it's all the same at the end.
But that's like again a part of this hypothesis that we have with WeShape. Part of it is that self-worth drives self-care.
Yeah.
Right. And the second part of it is like we can help educate people on how to move better, and when you move better, you feel better.
Yep.
And you said something there that reminded me of another story. Our oldest client, I think, is 87 years old, and she uses a walker. And she had a question one day about the walker hurting her shoulders, and I said, like, well, it's right in front of you. Like, let me see how you hold yourself with the walker. And she does this thing, right, where it's like the shoulder internal rotation and shrugging, and like basically you're just relying on your neck muscles, and your shoulders don't have a stable base or anything. So, similarly to what you said, it's like, okay, like drive your fingertips away from your ears, turn your elbow pits forward, right? And now you want to feel those muscles that are underneath your armpits. Do you feel those muscles? Yeah, okay. Now grab your walker and keep your shoulders there. Oh, the pain went away, right? Look at that. So it's not just about can we make, progress, right? There's so much obsession with, air quotes, progress, right? It's more about, can we make your quality of life better?
Yep.
Right? Can we teach you ways to make your quality of life better? And sometimes it's instant,
Yep.
right? And movement is one of those ones where you can get a lot of quick wins out of it.
Yeah.
And with the mindset, there are some epiphanies and big wins. And there's also a lot of like longer term struggles that end up being things that feel so liberating and freeing if you're willing to, get started on those.
Once you get there. Yep, for
Yeah.
sure. And in addition to, a lot of the wins and the beautiful transformations we see with our clients at WeShape, I get to experience that. Like I said, I still get to see clients in the clinical setting. And, this made me think about shifting, when we talk about sort of shifting these beliefs within people. I had a body image coaching client, and this is going to sound like a really small win, but it was huge because this was a person who struggled, like a lot of us, grew up with that very critical voice. Parents were, loving people, but just believed that getting smaller was the way to be healthier. And you hear those messages over and over again, and then your body starts to grow, and you're like, oh, something's wrong with me, right? And so with this particular client, she stopped associating or going out with friends and doing fun activities because she was just so uncomfortable in her skin and in her body. So getting dressed, and I'm going to go even further, showering and grooming and getting dressed and going outside of the house to be with friends was like not something that she could do. And literally we worked together for almost a year, and it was step by step by step. Yeah. And by the end of it, the first win was like, I am actually spending more time grooming myself. I am showering because, again, it goes back. We talked about this, like most people brush their teeth without an issue, right? Because we want to take care of our teeth. But when your self-worth gets so low, even the basic hygiene things become difficult.
And you got to take that first step.
You got to take that first step. And so what she started doing is taking care of her hygiene more consistently. And then it was like, you know what? Summer's coming. It's getting warmer. And I have a couple friends that have invited me out. And usually I just say no. But this time I went through my closet and I found something that I could fit. And I went out. And it's like, that is a huge win when we talk about caring for yourself and recognizing your value and your worth and the fact you deserve a good quality of life. You deserve to, have joy and happiness and experiences and be with people that you care about and that care about you. But until you believe it, you'll be sitting in the house, working from home, self-isolating, and not taking the many steps to get to the thing that you want.
Yeah.
And so, and we see, obviously we get to see that with our clients, but, that just reminded me of her story and being able to see her, come out and like wear a cute little outfit. And I think she went on a boat. I'm like, what? Like, that was pretty ambitious, but being able to see that you are worthy of these experiences that you want, and you don't have to hold yourself back because of the narratives you've had, your whole life. But that took a year.
Yeah.
Like, that was not instant. So to your point, some stuff can be quick, and but most of this stuff is hard work, and it's going to take time to get there, and it's baby steps. But every step matters, for sure.
I got a different way to share someone else's story around that same vein, because sometimes we don't just lose our self-worth and then isolate. Sometimes we give all ourselves away, and there's no space
Facts.
left.
Yeah, for sure.
Right? And one lady in particular who I love, Dee, who has such a great energy, she was another one of our challenge winners. And in the beginning of the challenge, I present this hypothesis that the reason why we don't show up for ourselves is because we don't value ourselves. And so if there's anything that I want people to walk away from this challenge with at the end of it, it's I'm worthy of love and care. Like, I'm worth it, right? And she really took that to heart. And Dee was, I think she's in her like mid to late 60s. She's retired, and she just found herself saying yes to everything. Yes to the board here, yes to this thing, yes to that thing, yes to that thing. And when she came back on after this realization that, like, wait, I need to make space for me. And the realization was, like, I can say no, right? And Dee went around and was like, no, no, no to all these different things.
Went on a
and
tour.
and people got mad, and she said, I'm so sorry you're mad, but no. And
love it.
the ability to just pause and advocate for self and set some boundaries and not commit to things out of guilt and obligation, but rather saying yes to the things that she really wanted to say yes to, completely transformed her life. It's like, now you got space to take care of yourself, do your workouts and stretching routines, and go for walks and hang out with friends and do meaningful things rather than just getting stuck in all the obligatory, tasks that we feel like we should be doing because the world praises us when we're superheroes, superwoman and Superman, right?
Yeah.
So it was so cool to see. That one was an interesting transformation to me to watch because it happened in like 30 days, right?
That's
it went from like
beautiful.
absolute self-abandonment to like never again,
Never
right? And it's so
again.
beautiful to see someone, especially someone who's in their 60s, do this, right? And I've seen that over and over again. In fact, one more story that pops in my head was this one lady at the end of a challenge. She told us, she was in her 60s as well. She said, I've lived for 60 years and walked past the mirror and hated myself. And this is the first time in 60 years that I walk past the mirror and I appreciate myself. And like, God, see, this is what I mean with those stories. When I hear somebody say that from their own mouth, I'm just like, wow.
Let me just
Thank
say, shameless plug for WeShape. Listen, y'all, it is not what you think. Like, it is not the same old BS nonsense. You're gonna feel so good about yourself once you lose weight. Yeah, you see this before picture, you're so fat and unhappy, and then you're gonna be thin and so happy. It's not that bullshit. Like, we don't do that bullshit here. It's so different. It's so refreshing. It's so, if you just hear the stories of how people transform how they feel about themselves, it is not the same shit we've been doing over that hamster wheel of like, let me diet, let me restrict, let me work out, let me lose weight, let me look better, and then right back at the same place over and over again. That's not what we do here. It's so different. There's so much mental work that goes into being a part of the WeShape program and the WeShape family, and understanding that all of this is about your deep-seated beliefs about yourself. And when you shift how you feel about yourself, you shift how you care for yourself. And that's why everything that happens, in these calls and, during the workouts and during these challenges, it's so meaningful. It's so much better. Like, what's the joke? Like, when they're like, my sister's better than yours or my best friend's better than yours. My workout program's better than yours. Like, WeShape, it is so good because it's so different, and it's not about beating yourself up and making yourself feel bad about who you are to be better. That's so stupid. That's so counterproductive. But that's what all the other, not everyone, but 99% of all the other like fitness-based programs do. They make you feel bad about yourself to make you try to feel better about yourself. And it doesn't work.
It doesn't.
It doesn't work. So,
It,
if you're not a WeShape member yet, you should be. I'll just leave that there.
Thank you for the shameless plug. You brought up something interesting there, and I know that people have probably heard my story before, but years ago we were doing all of that. We were doing challenges, and we were like, you can finally lose weight and feel happy in just 30 days, right? And we'd have the before and after pictures up there of the people who crashed dieted their way to weight loss. And what was so interesting to me over the last few years is the contrast of what I hear people saying.
Yep.
Because before, people were so excited about their weight loss, but usually they would be like, what's next? There's more. I'm going to lose more weight. I'm going to do this other thing. And we might even be like, yeah, keep going, because that's all we knew at the time.
Deteriorate.
That's all I knew how to do at the time. It was just
Right.
like, hey, you know what? When I lost weight and changed my body, people praised me and I felt good. But wait a second, I didn't see what was underneath that. And what was underneath that was a lot of self-hatred and a lot of self-judgment and a lot of shame and a lot of trauma from being an overweight kid who was never talked to in a kind way or held in a way when he needed it. And when that all changed and we decided to do WeShape. And by the way, something that most people probably don't know is we shut down some fitness businesses that were doing incredibly well.
Yeah.
Like literally just turned it off, and those are some of my proudest moments because I chose what I felt was right. And with WeShape, we watch people go through these challenges and literally nothing could change in the way that they look.
Nope.
Nothing. And yet the testimonials that we get, the amount of self-appreciation and self-love that is inside these conversations we're having with people is like, it's so much more than before when people were just losing weight.
Yeah.
And it just becomes more and more meaningful to me, to the point that when I feel like sometimes I'm like, oh my God, this is so much work and this is so like a lot and I feel exhausted. And then I jump on a call and then somebody shares a story with me. Like I'll share another one more on the topic. This is a member for around 1.5 years now, Nancy, and she jumped on a call and said, I had this realization today that I was staring at myself in the mirror and I wasn't thinking about self-criticism at all. There wasn't it was just like not a thought in my mind. And I was like, oh my God, that's huge.
That is huge.
That's a huge achievement.
Yeah.
And she's like, but it took a year. I'm like, yeah, that's not that long.
I'm gonna say, it only took a year?
I'm kind of impressed. She went through 5 challenges in the course of a year or so. And it completely changed her perception of self. And it made me so happy because, we've said this a million times, we're not born with those beliefs. We inherit those beliefs. Like a child doesn't hate themselves because of the way they look.
Never.
They will never operate like that.
And they're chubby and round and cute.
Yeah. and they learn it. And then all of a sudden the self-esteem goes down. The self-worth goes down. And then in order to try and get that self-worth back, we punish ourselves and we reduce our self-worth. And we wonder why we're in this society that is unhappy, unhealthy, doesn't take care of ourselves, doesn't like ourselves, even if we're afraid to admit that.
Yeah.
And it's like things have to change.
Yep.
Things have to change. People have to be taught and empowered to show up from a different place.
Yep.
And that's why I get to wake up every morning and do what I do, because I get to see people make a meaningful change in how they feel in their bodies and about their bodies.
Yeah. And it's so inspiring and it's so encouraging. We do this work, but also, we're doing our own work. Yeah. And so sometimes, just like you said, if you're having a difficult day and then you get on this call, we're almost, we're expected to kind of inspire and motivate people, but then they share these stories and it's like, oh, I'm getting just as much out of this as you are. And that's what I love about WeShape and about our coaching calls and our time, within the community, is that I can get just as much inspiration and hope and joy as, the people calling in, So it's for all of us.
It's funny how you mentioned personal work there, because I was feeling frustrated earlier this year, and it was like, I want WeShape to grow faster, right? And it's my patience is something I've been working on for a long time. But, you know, to have an entrepreneurial win streak that I had prior to WeShape, where, you know, again, we were operating in the fitness paradigm, like get abs fast and all this different stuff, right? And then when we stopped and we were like, hey, like, move your body better to feel better in your body. It's like the message isn't as like compelling and sexy and whatnot, right? So the traction has been slower than I would have imagined. So I was meditating on that. I was like, what do I got to do? What do I got to do to make this grow faster? And sometimes when I'm meditating, I get this like message that's so clear. And the message just popped into my head and it was just like, just keep being who you say you are. Just keep being more of that person. And like, don't worry about how fast it's going and what's happening. Just like live in that authenticity. And that's what lights the fire. Yeah. And that's like, I always say to people on our challenge calls, like when they start to feel better about themselves, it's like almost like I get to look inside and their light just got turned up. That flame got turned up. Yep. And like my goal is like, how can I love myself authentically so much that I can show others, hey, here you go. Like this is, you can do this. And then they turn their flame up and then they have a grandson that they teach that to. And then it's just like, what we're missing is more people understanding that this is possible, right? That this is something that can be worked towards, and that most of what the container society holds us in is doing the opposite to us. For sure. And if we can start with the awareness, which is another beautiful part of what we do at WeShape, is once you come in and you realize what the fitness industry and society has done to you, you can't really turn away.
Oh, you cannot close that curtain.
You know what I mean? Like, because then you go, the next fitness challenge is like, input your credit card and, you know, tell us how much weight you want to lose. And you're like, wait a second, this is making me feel shitty about myself, right? Yeah. But, you know, ultimately, at the end of the day, if we can get more people really, really beginning to just appreciate who they are, accept who they are, have compassion for themselves, give themselves grace, show up for their self-care routines from a place of self-love, right? That's what's going to change this whole industry, and that's what's going to change the world. And like, I really hope that we can make a big impact on that for sure.
Oh, we are 100% making a big impact on that.
Bigger and faster, though.
That part.
Keep being, keep doing, right? Yeah, just keep going.
Be present. That was one of my things for this year and moving forward. Being more present, celebrating the spaces we're in, and not being so driven by what's next, you know, in the same way we do with clients who are trying to improve their health. Like, just focus on being in this moment and appreciating where you are, what you have, and how far you've come. And the next thing will be the next thing. Yeah. Like, tomorrow's coming, you know?
Yeah, no matter what.
It doesn't matter. So whether you sit and stress about it or you just relax and be in it, is coming either way.
I love how you said that, because it reminds me of this big Harvard study they did on happiness. And so much of what we think creates this valuable life is like our will and our ability to plan it out. And like, they actually did the study on this. And so not only is this true in my life, but this is like studied. And what they found was that most of what shapes people's lives is shit they didn't know it was going to happen. 100%. Right? Random stuff. Like, to me, like, why did I get good at learning movement? I got hit by a car. And then 10 years later, I blew my knee to the side doing gymnastics. And so it was like essential. It was like, either I'm in pain or I figure this out. Right? And I didn't see either one of those things coming, right? And it ultimately like made me, I'm like sitting here doing this career because of those quote unquote negative experiences, right? Yeah. And so like, sometimes I think of like goals and planning, and like, I used to be so into that. And now I'm just like, I'm just not there anymore. You know, I just going to keep doing the thing, and I do want it to grow. I want the message to be bigger. But I don't think I know how it's going to get there, and I'm okay with that.
We don't.
You know.
Yeah, that's evolution.
Yeah, yeah. Keep it going. Well, you know, I'm so happy to share these stories and just have this conversation today, because, again, I want people to walk away from this message knowing that you don't have to live your life feeling crappy in your body. You don't have to live your life hating yourself, getting stuck in this internal dialogue that's constantly criticizing you, and it doesn't have to be something that consumes you. It doesn't have to be like, you know, something that you have to do alone. There's so much that can be done. And really it's about taking that first and most manageable step, because I feel like so many of us get overwhelmed when we think about all the work that needs to get done. And like you said, if we can just appreciate those parts of ourselves, you know, sorry, I was going to say one more thing. I was appreciate those parts of ourselves. Brought up this thought that whenever I hear people speak about their quote unquote their results, right? Like
Yeah.
how much change they've made in their mindset or maybe in their body. Almost always, I rarely hear somebody speak about it in a way that's really proud. It's almost always like, well, you know, it's just that I stopped thinking about my body negatively in front of a mirror, and it took a year, but you know, I guess that's pretty good. And we're like, no, like maybe something we should all be doing is celebrating like those little damn wins, right? I could think
'Cause
about
they're the big wins,
They're the
really.
big wins,
Yeah.
and we're wired to do that. My partner the other day, she was working all day on these different projects and things, and then at the end of the day, I came home and she was like, I got to do one more thing. I said, no, let's stop. Like, you can hang out with me. Like, let's do this. And I got to do the one more thing. I got to know. I feel like I haven't accomplished anything today. And I'm like, what a message that we are taught and send to ourselves, that like, if we don't maximize every minute of every day, we're a failure. Instead of, look at all the stuff that I accomplished today.
Yeah.
And I think people need to look at those wins, like the awareness of when you're critical of yourself, the going out for a 5-minute walk, right? Like the listening to something positive and uplifting, the calling a friend when you're in need rather than sitting in your loneliness, right?
Yeah. The silencing that inner critic, the coming up with an affirmation to combat that nasty voice. You know, every little thing that you do, every little step that you make is worth celebration. And yeah, we don't do that enough at all.
Not nearly enough.
Yeah.
Woof. Well, I hope everyone listening feels inspired to do something to change your circumstances, right? Because nobody's going to come in and do that for you, unfortunately, right? I'm not going to tell you it's going to happen in 2 weeks.
No.
And it's not about getting abs either, right?
It's definitely not about
It's
getting
about
abs.
doing the real work to learn how to create self-worth and care for yourself in a more meaningful way. So, yeah. Thanks for the conversation, Lisa. Thank you so much for
you.
everybody listening, and we'll see you next time.